Hello, Maine and Greater New England.
Hello.
We're coming to see you guys in Portland, and we can't wait. We would love to see you there.
Yep, we'll be at the State Theater on August 30th, and if you're interested, you can get tickets and information at sysklive.com.
Throw some lobster at us.
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know, a production of iHeartRadio's How Stuff Works.
Hey, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh Clark. There's Charles W. Chuck Bryant. There's Jerry over there. And wowie zowie.
Pavement's best record?
I think, no, hold on. No, it's not wowie zowie. It's not Crooked Rain.
What's
the one between them? With Summer Babe.
Oh, no, that was the first one. That's Slanted and Enchanted.
Okay, that was their first album?
Mm-hmm.
God, what a classic, man.
Yeah.
I think that's their best one, is it not?
Well, Crooked Rain gets cited a lot of times as sort of the peak Pavement.
Mm-hmm.
Slanted is for fans of like the early sloppy days, lo-fi, which we both love.
Sure.
I like Wowie Zowie because it was so strange and weird.
I haven't heard that one very much.
It's great.
Okay.
They're all great. I like them even right down to the last one.
That's good. The weird polka experimental album that they came out with?
They're playing, they announced they're playing another couple of reunion shows at a festival in Portugal.
Wow.
And we're in touch with Mr. Bob Nastanovich, and I texted him.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I have to go to Portugal? Is anything brewing here in the States?
Uh-huh.
It's like, because I'll go.
What did he say?
He said, nothing as of yet. He's like, so go with God.
Are you going to go to Portugal?
Maybe. If that's the only chance to see Pavement again, I might.
Yeah, sure.
Because I want to go to Portugal anyway.
You have frequent flyer miles to use?
A ton.
Do it. You totally should. And drink some port while you're there, too.
Yeah, my friend's opening up a wine shop in Kirkwood that is very, not exclusively Portuguese, but that's where she's from.
Oh, cool.
It's going to be featuring a lot of Portuguese wines.
That works really well with this episode, Chuck.
Great.
As we'll see later on. But just put a pin in Portuguese wine.
Okay.
And for later.
All right. So you started off by saying the words wowie zowie.
Because we're talking about peyote, which is an hallucinogen.
That's right.
But it's from what I've seen, one of the oldest hallucinogens. People were eating mushrooms all over Europe, North, Central, Western Europe for a very long time.
Sometimes accidentally, which is hysterical.
But people have been eating peyote for a really, really long time, too, as we'll see.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of years. And as a result, it's got a pretty interesting little history to it, both ancient and modern.
Yeah.
And really all it comes down to is it's a spineless cactus that has a very bitter taste.
Hey, that's not nice.
That never stands up for itself. But it is a spineless cactus, which means, well, if it's a spineless cactus, that means that desert animals probably love to eat it. They don't, because it has a really bitter taste, and that bitter taste is an alkaloid called mescaline.
Right, and that it's a sign, it's nature's sign saying don't eat me.
Right, but just so happens that if we humans eat that particular alkaloid, we say things like wowie zowie.
That's right.
Right.
So, yeah, let's go. It is native to Mexico in the southern U.S. It is technically the scientific name is Lophophora
Nice.
William C.E. Now, we decided that two I's means you pronounce both, right?
You have to go ee.
E.E. And it grows in northern Mexico and South Texas, right along the border there.
Sure. Peyote knows no borders.
That's true. And it loves the rocky limestone. And in historical documents, it's had a range all the way up to New Mexico, perhaps.
Yeah.
And we've either changed that with human interaction or that was just wrong.
Right. But it definitely grows along the border.
Yeah, and it looks like a little... growing up, did you ever see those little tomato pin cushions?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Looks sort of like that, but it's not red.
Yeah, I guess. And it doesn't have pins sticking out of it.
No. Although you could stick a pin in it.
Sure you could.
Put a bird on it.
It'd be very disrespectful to the spirit within the peyote, though.
That's right.
It probably wouldn't like that very much.
That's true, like a little peyote voodoo doll.
Sure. So like we said, the mescaline is to tell animals, stay away, don't eat me. They also think it's possible that it has something to do with communications between plants. It may do a number of different things, actually. But one of the things about peyote is it has this reputation, a very mystical reputation, not just because it's a psychedelic and an hallucinogen, but because it is really, really hard to find until it's not. It's got this reputation where you'll be looking all over for peyote. It grows in the rocky soil, and typically it'll grow under like a creosote bush or a mesquite tree or something like that.
Yeah, nurse plant.
Right. But you can have looked. You can have looked all over underneath the creosote tree or whatever, and you walk away, and then you're like, I'll just go back and look again. And there it is, just staring you right in the face.
You trip over a rock and you land on it.
Right. There's the peyote. So it's got this kind of neat little reputation for hiding, playing hide and go seek with you. And then it's like, okay, all right, go ahead and eat me and trip. I was going to say something else.
Like I said, it's not red. They can be brighter green, but they can also look sort of bluish, which is interesting.
That nice like steel blue-green.
Yeah.
It's a pretty color.
It is. And they grow usually in clusters with multiple plants, but sometimes you can find them individually, and I think they're very pretty. They have little pink, white, and yellow flowers. They grow very low to the ground, and they're just, it looks like,
stubby.
A little stubby tomatillo with
pincushion.
Yeah, but it's not completely round. It has like sections.
It's almost cylindrical a little bit too.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I know.
We're on peyote right now, everyone.
A little bit.
Sorry. That's not true.
Oh. So this plant in particular has a weird history of getting confused with other plants because some of the other plants that grow around it are also consumed by some of the indigenous tribes in the area and have been. But there's like a type of peyote plant that it's not psychedelic, it just makes you kind of sleepy.
Sure.
There's something called a plant that has mezcal beans that are intoxicants of their own type, but they can also kind of kill you. There was a while there where peyote was called both Laphophora williamsii and Anhelonium lewinii. Right? Both have two eyes on the end. And then somebody's like, no, that's the same plant. So there's a lot of confusing horticultural history associated with...
I wonder why.
...with peyote.
Am I right?
It was playing tricks is what it was.
So there is people have used it not only for religious purposes, although that's a large part of it, which we'll get to in depth, but it does have some antimicrobial properties. I've seen that in really low doses that certain tribes have used it for indigestion, to treat wounds, to give them energy. To
work on a computer for days on end.
Cure hangovers. And like anything psychedelic, you could technically you can use it to help treat mental illness.
Right.
But they don't study that stuff in the United States. So again, it's always very hard to think about any sort of ecstasy or magic mushrooms or anything without studying, like clinical studies.
Well, they did study it for a while. Mescaline, once they isolated it from peyote, was used like LSD was in the 50s until LSD came along.
Right.
And they used it because they thought that maybe you could glean information about the root cause of schizophrenia by giving mescaline to people with schizophrenia. But they found out it was too unreliable. People's experiences were too different.
Yeah.
And there was no kind of structure that the individual followed. And plus, they found out people with schizophrenia could tell the difference between their delusions and delusions brought on by mescaline, which is pretty interesting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And when was that? In the 50s, I guess?
Pre-50s, because LSD came along in the 50s, so 30s, 40s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you harvest peyote, you cut off that stem really close to the ground, and they're known as buttons. They look like, I guess I've described them as pincushions, but they look like little buttons.
It makes sense to call them buttons.
Yeah, and Ed wrote this article, The Grabster. He said a typical trip is 4 to 6 buttons, and I thought that seemed like a lot of peyote because I'd seen photos of some buttons that were like as large as the palm of your hand, and I'm trying to imagine eating 8 things that big, 8 tomatoes that large. That's a lot of tomatoes. But then I looked at other pictures, and I guess those were like just super big peyote buttons. And most of them were A couple of inches in circumference.
Were they that big? I thought they were more like the size of a quarter or something like that.
I think between a quarter and like a silver dollar, maybe.
Or a shilling for our friends in the UK.
Is that a pence? Is that a quid? How does that all work?
I don't know. A shilling. Oh man, we're gonna get emails about this.
Oh, that's okay.
A shilling is like 20 pence, I think.
Are you going on record?
Yes.
Okay.